My name is Mike Christensen, and my wife Gina and I are the founders of Freedom for Heroes, a 501c3 nonprofit that we started about 2 years ago as a way to give back to the veteran community and create a stronger tribe and community of veterans who mostly are struggling in the Phoenix metropolitan area. Personally, I did 21 years in the National Guard, 19 as an infantry officer, and a couple years as a combat engineer, to include being a sapper commander. And that included 2 deployments, one where I sat on the border of Iraq and Kuwait back in early 2002, and then was deployed again about 5 years later to Afghanistan for a long 16-month deployment. And that deployment changed my life in so many ways. My second deployment in Afghanistan was 17 months, and it was not an easy deployment. We did over 540 patrols in less than I think it was like 13 months or something like that, boots on the ground. We were outside the wire multiple times a day. I brought every one of my guys back alive, but guys were getting killed around us, and I thought that I could just bury that stuff, and I did. I buried it for a long time. And then about 4 years ago, I started losing guys that I served with to suicide. And it was just, one every 6-8 months. And once it starts happening, you're like, what the heck is going on? And that was 15 years ago, and guys are still struggling. And so I started thinking to myself, what could I do to help? I don't know. I run a business, and we're a successful company. Is there a way that my company can give back? Is there a way I can get others involved? And I had a friend of mine that he was in Afghanistan with me. He was in a different province, but he called me up and said, hey, can you build my wife and I a house? Because that's what I do for a living. I build houses. So I sat down with him and his wife and talked in great details. And this was going to happen. It wasn't just some surface level conversation about, building a house, right? It was very serious, and talked pricing and where we were going to do this. And then the conversation shifted a little bit to, well, how you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing these days? And then the post-traumatic stress conversation came up, and then the VA came up, and we probably 2 hours, sitting down at breakfast that day. And he talked through his struggles. And when you listen to somebody, you just never know truly what's going on. Looking back, it was more surface level conversation in regards to the post-traumatic stress, and more frustration with the VA is how I perceived it. And then a month goes by and I get a phone call that he took his life. I was completely shocked that he did that, because I just talked to him a month before. It seems like critical in terms of him wanting to get his claim resolved and things like that, but that seemed like more of the frustration. And he had seen some different things in Afghanistan than I did, with children getting killed, and thank God I didn't experience that. And that's kind of my comment with the first deployment. I didn't get to go do stuff like that, but sometimes it's a good thing to not be a part of that. But the way he took his life was extremely horrific and graphic, and was just not something that his wife saw the whole thing. And it's just absolutely, I can't even, it chokes me up to even think about it, because, it's a tough thing it's a tough pill to swallow. And then to go to the funeral at the veteran cemetery and just see guys you served with, he had guys he went to Ranger School that were in different states that came out to be with him, and unfortunately, I guess that was the catalyst, the tipping point for me to get off my butt and try to give back to our community that we all served in, and that was the reason why I did it. And it's been a couple years now, and it's been a little bit slow taking off, but I've got plans to do some big galas to raise some money, so I can, instead of doing this 3 or 4 times a year, I can maybe do this 8-10 times a year.